All right, well, let's make a start. Thank you very much for joining the Liverpool chapter's first project. It's a pleasure to have you on board. And, you know, these Omdena challenges, this one especially is being designed to take into account beginners. And it will be generally based for beginners, so there will be plenty of opportunity to ask questions. There will be a couple of code alongs later on in the project, and hopefully we can keep every single beginner who has joined us on this project up to speed and involved within creating an end-to-end project. The title of the project is Predicting RTC Severity Using Machine Learning. An RTC is a road traffic collision, and that is a term that we use in the UK. And we use road traffic collision because it doesn't give a sense of blame rather than the word accident. So, you know, it could be just someone could be for blame, but it doesn't give that sort of connotation. So that's why we use that term. So today, what we're going to go over, an introduction about me, about our learning and development lead, and also our project manager. We're going to take a little look at the background of why I chose this project, and why I chose it to be the very first project for the Liverpool chapter. The problem of what we're going to solve and how we are going to solve it, the project goals, the outline of the project plan, the benefits of being on board Omdena and being involved with a project, and then we're going to open the floor and we're going to talk about the sort of finer details of how it's going to be managed, and how you can get involved and contribute to the project. Okay, so I'm Rich Gregson, and I've been a data analyst, a professional data analyst, for around 10 years now, and that has been over the public sector and for the private sector as well. Probably in about 2019, I started to learn machine learning, but I didn't really take it that seriously until I started work for the UK government. I've been in the UK government for about 2 years, and I adopted machine learning to move over into my role. I was recruited as a senior data analyst. However, I thought I'd offer a lot more with the machine learning and artificial intelligence. So that's what I've been doing over the past 2 years. I have recently accepted a data scientist and AI engineer role with Capgemini, which I start in November, which I'm looking forward to. And I've worked on a number of Omdena projects before, and this is why I thought I would try and and create my own chapter for Liverpool, which is where I'm from. We have Salman Khalil. He isn't here at the moment. He's got a clash with a class he's teaching, but he is going to be the learning and development lead. Now, he's been in the sort of machine learning and AI space for around 12 years. And he's got 7 published papers around, using machine learning. He's hosted seminars and conferences and whatnot. And he recently become a certified TensorFlow developer. And he is now also a technical reviewer for Packet Publishing, who publish a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence, as well as Python programming language books as well. I run a YouTube channel with Salman called Autodidact Scientists, and every meeting we're going to have in the Liverpool chapter is going to be recorded, and it's going to be put on a playlist on that channel. So if you can't make it for whatever reason, that's fine, but I would recommend that you catch up with the team meetings as we discuss our methods, and we discuss the code and our sort of strategy to build this project. So they are very important that you do catch up with them. Obviously, we promote open discussion in the Slack channel as well, so that's also a way to keep up. But I would very much make time to watch the recordings back. The project manager, Sunita, she's got a master's in bioinformatics from Indiana University in the US. She's very passionate about AI and machine learning. And I met Sunita on the Omdena Philadelphia chapter. and she's a very talented individual, and she's going to be the project manager of this particular task. And what her role will be to make sure everyone is engaged, everyone has the answers to the questions, and she will do the sort of the administration of the project. So she will send out the Google Forms, the Google Slides, just to capture information about the next stages in our project. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail at the end. Okay, the background to this. I'm not sure how many of you are from the UK, but I do believe we have one or two. And road traffic collisions in the UK have seen a significant decrease since the 1960s. And that is generally through more stringent driving examinations, and basically the infrastructure has been improved. However, in 2020, there was still 1,500 people who lost their lives on British roads. And from what I can gather, I'm not going to give too much away at the moment, but according to the data, Liverpool, where I'm from, seems to be quite I wouldn't say a hotspot, but it seems to have a quite significant amount of road traffic accidents. And that is usually because our roads have not been updated very well over the past couple of decades to sort of be able to capture the amount of traffic that we see on the roads in modern day. So the UK government compiles a lot of data, and it is quite extensive data about the road accidents that happen on British roads. It has the geographical area, the weather conditions, the vehicle types that were involved in the accidents, the casualty numbers, and the severity. And also exactly what the vehicles, what they were doing at the time of the accidents. As you'll see in the data, it is very detailed, and there's a lot of information to go on, and there's a number of different ways we can tackle this project, which is why I picked it. It can be, I'm quite excited to see, where we go. The team that we have and your fellow teammates, we do have a fantastic mix of experience. We have some, real professional data scientists, and we also have people who, are very much beginners. And I think that only, the creativity that we're going to see in this project, I'm very excited in seeing how we tackle them. So the problem is, we need to basically reduce the amount of road traffic collisions by identifying hotspots and predicting, based on the information we have, predicting the severity of them. And in that way, we can identify what are the worst recipes for road traffic collisions, what recipe of conditions will cause a major or very serious accident. And if we can identify them, we can basically make suggestions to the local authorities, wherever these hotspots are, to implement more traffic safety measures, whether that is improving what already exists or completely remodeling the roads around that particular hotspot. The data that we have is quite robust, and it is large. It is a massive data set. As I say, it's part of the UK government's open data website, and it is collected and disseminated. I can't even say that word, but it's put out by the Department of Transport. And what I've gathered is two data sets, which is the accident data, and every line in that particular folder is a instance of a traffic accident or traffic collision. And each one is given a specific code, a unique identifier, and that is called the accident index. The date ranged from 2005 to 2017, and it contains about 1 million records. The vehicle data is every line in that is an observation of the involvement of a vehicle, a unique vehicle. So if one accident has multiple, if one accident has multiple cars involved, it will be listed all under the same accident index. And that is from 2004 to 2016. So a slight difference in distribution, but that was the most up-to-date one and most robust one I could find. and that is 1.6 million records. Now, these two data sets can be linked using the accidents index column. So it will be very interesting to see what we can do with that sort of information. We can, look at the road traffic collisions, and then we can also see what vehicles were involved, and maybe discuss what kind of cars are responsible for most accidents, which will be quite an interesting observation, I think. The next part are our project goals. Now, I've listed 4 here, but we don't have to do them all, or we could do more. It's completely time dependent, and we will make that decision as we go along in the project. The number 1 project goal is to classify the road traffic collision severity. The second part is to identify the hotspots around the UK, not just in Liverpool, but anywhere in the UK where RTCs happen the most. We can also identify the vehicles that are most likely to be involved in a road traffic collision. And we can also, time dependent, we could probably create some sort of time series to monitor the rate of road traffic collisions over time. And that would be quite interesting as well. Again, we don't have to do them all. If we don't have the time to do them all, that's absolutely fine. These are just some ideas that I'm throwing out there. And, if you're interested in pursuing one of these ideas, by all means, let's do it. I think it will be, if we can manage to do all 4 of them points, I think we will have a very robust sort of solution to our problem, and that's what it's all about. That's what data science and machine learning is. It's creating solutions for your problems. Okay, so the project timeline: week 1 and week 2, data pre-processing and exploratory data analysis. Now, these two do overlap, so these will sort of mold into one. If we can get started on the exploratory data analysis straight away if we want to. The time frame is just a rough idea of what we can do, and a sort of goal of when we want the tasks completed. The data set is large, so it might take a little bit longer. That is absolutely fine. This isn't a solid deadline. We can take our time if we need to. I would suggest we discuss a week break between week 1 and 2 and week 3, only because in the first 2 weeks, exploring the data and applying some statistical analysis on the data, it can be quite intense, especially for beginners. So if we need a week break in between just to sort of discuss what we did and why we did it, and go over the code and go over the decisions that we made for people who might be a bit unsure, we can certainly do that. Salman is also going to offer calls on the side of our team calls, just to clear up any sort of confusion with any part of the process to beginners and more experienced people alike. We can discuss the techniques that we use within in the notebooks that we produce, and just to make sure everyone is up to speed and well informed of decisions we made and why we made them. It's very important to do that, and it's very important for us to all be on the same page to make a valid contribution. Week 3 is feature engineering, so that's going to be scaling your features, creating new features, removing them, all that kind of thing to basically get our data and make it fit for consumption by a model. The week 4 is model development and evaluation. This is where we will start to build a couple of models, and we do have the option to split into various different teams and pursue a different type of model, and then come together at the end and compare our findings and our results, and then move forward with the best sort of performing model. That is an option. We'll see when we get there. We can discuss that. Sunitha will advise on that, and if we need it, we need it. If we don't, that's absolutely fine as well. The evaluation part is probably the most important part. If you're unable to evaluate your model, you can't improve it and you can't use it. So the evaluation skills are very, very important in a data science and machine learning pipeline. And we will focus heavily on the evaluation. We will discuss a number of different evaluation techniques, how to visualize it, and how to interpret the evaluation metrics as well. I think model evaluation, if you've done any sort of online machine learning course or data science course, I don't personally, that this may have changed, but I don't think the model evaluation is something that is delved into a lot. It isn't deep enough in a lot of online courses. So I think going through it with people who are experts, who are on this call right now, would be beneficial to everyone. And of course, data science and machine learning, whether you've been in the field for 1 year or 10 years, every day is a learning curve. So if we can get together as professionals and discuss these parts of a data science pipeline, everyone will learn something, and it will make you a better data scientist and a better machine learning engineer. Week 5, model deployment and final presentation. So we can build a couple of models, and models are no good if they can't be deployed. So we need to discuss how we would deploy our predictive model, how we would demonstrate our hotspot identification, how we would present our time series analysis and maybe even prediction. And so there's a number of different platforms we can do this on. AWS, Google Cloud, we can make Streamlit apps or Flask apps or whatnot. We can discuss that when we get there, but deployment is part of allowing our hard work to be used by other people. And the final presentation, I'll get to that in a moment. I just want to bring your attention to the task leads and co-leads. Now, each task requires a voluntary lead, and the task lead and task co-leads are responsible for writing the notebooks, keeping the notebooks up to date, refactoring all the code and publishing them onto our GitHub, and also presenting our findings at the team meetings. So the task leads, ideally someone who does have a bit of experience putting together notebooks, coding in a data science sort of context. The co-leads, I would prefer if they were someone without a lot of experience, because what will happen during our journey on this course will basically, we will go away after this meeting and we will look at the data. Everyone will take the data and they will investigate it either on their own or in a group, a small group that can be organized on Slack. And then our next meeting, everyone gets back together and we discuss what we found in the data. We discuss, is there any sort of interesting observations we've made? Is there any sort of, part of the data that need more sort of in-depth analysis? And what the task lead and co-lead will do is gather all the information and all the opinions of everyone that is looked into the data, and they will start to build a notebook and manipulate the data as per the group sort of ideas. So it can be quite it's a lot of a responsibility, but it is so rewarding. You learn very quickly, and it's not only you're representing our team and you're building these notebooks and you're deciding what we pursue and what we don't pursue. So it's very valuable. So if you do have a decent amount of experience, please volunteer as a task lead. And if you do have a little bit of experience or not so much, or if you're a complete beginner, apply to be a co-lead. Sunita will put out a Google sheet where you can sign up. And if we get a lot of applications for task leads and co-leads, I will pick them based on a random number. I'll assign everyone a random number and we'll just go from there. I think that's probably the fair way we can do it. I did write in this presentation, each task requires a voluntary lead, but for week 1 and 2, I would suggest that we have one particular task lead and co-lead for week 1 and 2, only because these two tasks pretty much one in themselves. It's very difficult to separate the two. So apart from week 1 and 2, we're gonna have a task lead and co-lead for week 3, 4, and 5. So once this call's done, Sunita will share a Google Sheet into the Slack. And please, if you're interested, put your name down. But I would fully recommend it. I've been a task lead on the Omdena Philadelphia project, and I learned so much just from other people. And I would fully recommend it. It is such a fantastic opportunity to speak with like-minded individuals, and it is one for your resume, where you can basically say, you led on a couple of tasks and you collated the ideas of how many people we've got on the call now, 71. You collated the ideas of 71 machine learning and AI enthusiasts. It's quite impressive. It is a lot of work. If you can commit 5 to 15 hours a week to do this, absolutely go for it. If you're unable to do that, I probably wouldn't suggest it. It is quite it's a lot of work, but it is it's very rewarding. So yeah, please sign up if you're interested in the Google Sheet which will be distributed after the call. As I say, there may be a week break depending on how we feel. We'll agree on that as a group. But I think it might be beneficial for beginners, because then we can reflect over the previous 2 weeks of what we've done and why we did it. I'm also going to be on call, and I'll be hosting these calls to explain to beginners what we did as well. So it's well worth it, but we don't have to if you don't want to. We'll do it as a group. Okay. So this part is about the benefits of becoming a collaborator on the Omdena platform on an end-to-end project. A big one, I think, is it's a safe space. It's an opportunity for beginners to work on a real life project where it absolutely doesn't matter if you make mistakes. There's no silly questions. There's no wrong answers, nothing like that. It's all part of the learning process. And if you go straight into industry, sometimes you can't afford to make those mistakes because they are business critical. You're making decisions that are business critical. In our project, it's not business critical. Everyone's trying to learn. Everyone's trying to better themselves. So if you feel like you've got a question, but you feel it's stupid, it sounds stupid, ask it. There's never a stupid question. This is your time to make mistakes and learn without any judgment from anyone else. And everyone in the team on the projects, me, Salman, and Sunita, we're more than happy to help. Oh, I've skipped this slide there by accident. We're more than happy to help, and I'm sure there's plenty of others on this call who will chip in and answer questions that anyone has. It's a safe space to make mistakes and learn. That's the beauty of it. The project, of course, it will increase your DS and data science and machine learning skills. So you will become more employable in the tech industry when you finish this project. If you've made a good contribution, you will learn a lot, and you'll go away with skills that you never had when you started. You can also, you will receive a certificate at the end to say you took part in this real life project, real life end-to-end project, and you can use it. You can use this as your portfolio. You can upload this project and fork it to your GitHub and demonstrate and post it on your LinkedIn and show people that you are capable of working in collaboration with a large team and getting something done, building a solution. And of course, the verified certification as well, and that will come from Omdena. And we can share that on all our social media platforms, and it is verified as well. Cool. Okay, so this is where I'm going to sort of up on the floor now, just after a few points. The task leads again, let me just reiterate that. Each task needs a lead and co-lead. The task lead should ideally be experienced in coding in a data science context, and the task leads usually require between 5 and 15 hours a week to perform their duties. The meeting schedule, I would say ideally we meet officially twice a week, and possibly one at the weekend, because in my experience, that's when more people are available. But we should do one through the week as well as a sort of check mark. Because if we decide to meet at the weekend, say a Saturday, we've got all week to work on the project, and on the Saturday we can deliver the final deliverables. But if we have a checkpoint meeting, maybe on a Wednesday, We can see how far we've got, if anyone's having any difficulties at all, and rediscuss sort of strategies that we have on each sort of task. But again, Sunita is going to distribute a survey, and you can pick the best times for you, and then we will just take the majority on that, and we will book in a couple of calls, which will run throughout the project. That doesn't mean we only have to meet then. We can meet between each other, and we can meet as a group if we need to. I wouldn't suggest working in silo. If you make a couple of acquaintances in our group, and you want to discuss and work on the data together, let other people know in the Slack, and they can join and take the benefits of it as well. So we don't want anyone working in silo where they've done a lot of work and it's not recognized. We want everyone to contribute equally. So if you do plan to meet on the side, let everyone know, and if they want to join, they can join, and if they don't, they don't. But then we can all catch up then during our official meetings. And that is about it for the time being. I've seen some questions in the chat. Let me just take a quick scan. Yes, there could be duplicates in the accident ID column. So that is one to explore. Do we receive a hard copy of the certificate? It's just a digital version, but it is verified and you can share it. How do we get added to the GitHub repo? You should have had an invite. If you haven't, I'll add you to it. Everyone should have a pending invite. I'd check your spam box, but I believe the invites run out after 24 hours, so I might have to re-invite you. When you get the invitation and you click the link in the email, for some reason it logs you out of GitHub and it brings up a 404. If you log in, it should, because it's a private repo, if you log in and refresh and go and navigate back to the repo, it should be fine. And can a person be a co-lead in more than one task? Yes, absolutely. But if we get a lot of applications, it's going to be basically picked on a random number. So just to make it fair, that is. And what will be the platform for this project? So everything will be stored in our GitHub repo, and you can manage that however you feel necessary. If you are familiar with GitHub and Git in general, you can make your own branch and work on it, or you can simply do it and upload things manually into your own folder and create your own folder so we can keep track of your work. It's completely up to you, as long as there's no sort of we have a couple of centralized task notebooks, which the task leads and the task co-leads will be responsible for. As long as you don't edit them, that's fine. But you can certainly, make your own branches and duplicate there to make your own make your own code and investigate the data and various different steps yourself. That's not a problem. All the meetings will be recorded and put on YouTube. The Slack channel will have all the updates of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and discussions around different the different tasks and the processes and thought processes that are going into the different tasks will be all kept up to date on Slack. Okay, let me just see email address. Yes, Hassan, if your email is different to your GitHub, if you DM me your GitHub username, I'll add that on. Have I missed one there? I have, haven't I? All the vehicles and the vehicle data corresponds to every accident in the... It might. That's up to you to discover. I didn't want to make it too easy. Could you please talk about the responsibilities of the co-lead? So the co-lead is designed for a beginner, someone who can support the task lead, and the task lead would sort of mentor the co-task lead in how they take the group's suggestions and put that into a solution in each task. The task lead can also help in ways of gathering different opinions, talking to people within the group who've done their own sort of analysis, and seeing if they have any interesting observations that the task lead may have overlooked. It's very much a symbiotic relationship between the task lead and the co-task lead, but I would suggest the co-lead is generally more of a beginner. Okay, let me just catch up with everyone. In what manner will this activity be helpful for beginners who are from zero? So that is a very good question. When I was on other Omdena, let me just check the time. We still got time. Yep. When I worked on other Omdena projects, we lost a lot of beginners because it moved too quickly. So I introduced Salman Khalik and Sunita onto the project to help with that. I also assign co-leads to be beginners because they will be helped directly from the task leads. And what we're going to do to keep engagement from beginners who are starting from zero is provide sort of code along workshops and workshops with me and Salman. And we can then reflect on what the task leads have done and why they've done it, and walk through the code and show you what it's all about. And that, I think, will help keep beginners engaged, because it is very important to be engaged to learn. So I'm going to try and mitigate that as much as possible. I'm here, round the clock. So if there is any questions or you'd like to talk about something in a little bit more depth, drop me a message and I'll make some time for you. Salman and Sunita are the same as well. Okay, let me see. Is Slack the only way we're going to stay connected? Yes, it is. That's going to be our central hub for all communication. I've just seen someone didn't get the link for the Slack community. I will make sure that I've invited everyone. I'll go back over the emails. Okay. Browsing the GitHub repo now and couldn't find the data. The data is too big for the GitHub at the moment. I have uploaded the data into the Slack channel. If you go to the problem statement in the bookmarks at the top, there is a link to a Google Drive with the data, and it's stored in CSV files and it's stored in Parquets as well. Okay, let me see. Is there a glossary or dictionary for this data set? Michael, there is. In the GitHub, I've already made the task #1 notebook. If you look in that notebook, I have listed the sort of glossary of each sort of feature within the data set, and I've also linked to the official government one as well, just to clear up any sort of questions on there. And it's good to see you, Michael. It's good to have you on board. Okay, where can we perform the code? Because the data is very big, it will be difficult to process on Colab. So we can, that's one of the sort of stipulations. We have a massive data set, and what I wanted to do is provide you with a massive data set. More data is always better, but how much is too much? We can tackle that in a number of different ways. I've shrunk them down into Parquets and to make it easier for people who are using Colab. But do we need all the data? That is entirely up to you. The next couple of days, we're going to be looking at the data, and I want you to go away and work with the data, make some observations and handle it how you would handle it in a real life situation. And then we can report back and discuss the best practice. More data is definitely better results generally, but how much is too much? Again, that's what I want to leave to you. I want the participants of this group to make their own decisions, and then we can discuss it as a team and figure out the best way forward. That's how we collaborate, and that's how we learn more. And it'll be great to see. What is very valuable is seeing a number of different people's sort of observations and the different opinions and how we should tackle things. I certainly have my own biases where I will tackle this project in a certain way, and someone else will have theirs. Whose is better? We don't know, but it's good to discuss. I might learn something. I might be able to show someone else something. That's how we do it. Quality over quantity, exactly. How can you make groups co-lead? How we can so we're going to make them a co-lead by gathering everyone's name who's interested in the Google Sheet. And I'm going to decide who's what, and by a random number if we get a lot of applicants. And then we will make the announcements of who are the task leads. And then from there, they can take the realm, and they will be responsible for the notebooks. And the next call we have after this will be hosted by the week 1 and 2 task lead. And what they will do is present any findings that they've made, but then open the floor to everyone else's sort of ideas, and we will discuss as a team what we're going to do. Hopefully that answers your question. Will I be guiding the task leads? Yes, I will. Me, Salman, and Sunita will be guiding the task leads. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're not going to tell you what is a good decision and what's a bad decision. That is up to you. You are the task lead. It's your responsibility to come up with the best way forward after discussing it as a team. Of course, myself and Salman and the project leads, we will offer advice. We will, 1 minute remaining. Okay. If everyone could leave this call and refresh it, we'll get back into the discussion. Thanks very much. Okay, we'll just give it a moment and everyone can get back in. Got some great questions there. Feel free to jump on mic on the microphone with any other questions. We are pretty much done with the presentation, but I'd like to hear any questions anyone has. Put them in the chat, or feel free to talk on mic. Absolutely. I think the last question. How many co-leads would there be per task? So week 1 and 2, we will have 1. And then there's going to be 1 for a separate task lead for 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, that's 1 for each task after week 3. Well, how many members will there be per team? Let me just mute. I'm echoing. Sorry. Okay, how many members will there be per team? We're not entirely sure whether or not we're going to have teams yet. We have teams in a previous project we've done, and it was quite effective. But once we get to the model building exercise, we'll discuss it as a team, whether we will break into different teams. And what we'll do, every team will have a team lead who will then report into the task lead and present their model that they've built together as a team, and then we will move which one was most successful to the final stage. Okay. Lavanya, you raised your hand.
Hi, Rich. Can I talk?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's nice to connect with you and on the project as well. I have few questions on this.
Yep.
Yeah, what you said, the co-lead, beginner can be the co-lead, because I'm just a beginner. I'm just learning the data science, and I've done some EDA projects, and I'm working on the ML project as well. So can I be the co-lead?
Yep, of course. I think a co-lead would benefit of having a beginner, only because the task lead would sort of mentor the co-lead just to go through the decisions he's making, the task lead would be making in the code, and the different sorts of techniques to manipulate the data and whatnot. It's a learning experience, really, but it does come with some responsibility.
Okay, just helping him on all the data or the decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And gathering information from others in the team. If someone raises their hand and says, I found a very interesting feature, it's up to you to. If the task lead has missed it, it's up to you to tell the task lead, and that might influence his decision. But it's just a sort of go between task lead and participants. But it is a good learning experience.
Okay. And what about in the GitHub? So can we add our codes as well in the I work mostly on Jupyter Notebook. So those codes can be uploaded, or how's the task? Because I've gone through the GitHub this thing. So still the task part or the it is not created, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are a task lead or a co-lead, I would work on, the particular notebook, and then I would make a separate file on the GitHub and say, this is, task one, data pre-processing, and make it separate to the main one. And then when we go to the next meeting, we can discuss what we've done. And if we agree with it as a team, we can then transfer that information over to the ground zero task one notebook, and that will be the sort of set in stone notebook. But by all means, everyone, if you can share your notebooks, even you could share them in the Slack if that's possible, and people could download them and have a look on their own system, or share the Google Colab.
Personal notebooks can be used. Sorry.
Yeah.
Personal notebooks can be used, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Cool. No problem. I don't want to pronounce your name wrongly. Is it Jahanzeb?
Yeah, just call me Jay.
Jay, I like that.
Easier to pronounce, So I got a question. Yeah, so I got a question. So when is the first week of this project? Like, are we starting from next Monday or?
So what we're going to do now, the next step is, after we finish in this particular meeting, Sunita is going to send out a Google poll, and we're going to pick our meeting times. The very first meeting will be at some point next week. So what we're going to do is, it will be a bit staggered, as you say, but what we're going to do between now and the next meeting is everyone is going to go away and take a look at the data, see what it's about, make some notes, make some observations, and then when we get to the very first meeting, that's when we will discuss all our observations, and it'll be up to the task lead then to take them observations and put them into practice. So the first week, I would say, it's staggered by a couple of days, but it just lets people digest the data set. So nothing has to be, by the next meeting, nothing has to be produced, if you know what I mean. We just have to talk about the data, what we've seen, and any interesting sort of features that we can take into consideration while we're pre-processing it. So, getting rid of null values, making sure all the spelling's correct, the dates make sense, and so on and so forth.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Rich.
No problem. We've got a couple of questions, I think. Okay. Different model. Okay. How the project going to help for beginners as it involves in data cleaning and EDA for the starting period? We're going to discuss every single step of the data cleaning and EDA process. We're going to discuss how it's done. We're going to discuss the code, what it means, and what the output is. So hopefully every single beginner can stay on board and why we're doing things, how we're doing them, and what it means, what it says about the data, what story does it tell. The collaborators who finish the project will get access to a year of DataQuest on behalf of Omdena. DataQuest is very similar to Data Camp, but it offers very different sorts of career paths. And I use DataQuest for their data engineering career goal, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's very clear. It's very sort of intuitive in the way they teach you. It really sticks into your mind. It is a very good platform, and again, you've got a year to complete it. So yeah, it's very worth getting to the end and collaborating and being awarded with something like that, which will only improve your skills in the long term. Okay, all the contributors' work is going to discuss from scratch. Yeah, every single part of this project we're going to discuss from scratch. And after every task is complete, we will have the task lead give a small presentation on what we've done in the previous week, what we've done to complete the task. So in the likes of data pre-processing and EDA analysis, what the task lead will do is run through their notebook and run through their code, and they will discuss and show everyone what we've done, how we've done it, and what observations we've pulled out of our data. And we will use that information from the data pre-processing and the EDA to then start the feature engineering, where we start to manipulate the features and trying to gain a little bit more insight and develop a data set that will be digested very easily into whatever model we decide to build. So yeah, everything from scratch. We don't get access to DataQuest until it's done. It's usually about 1 or 2 weeks after the project end. Once we've sort of figured out who's contributed what, we can then start sending the invite to the DataQuest. But it is, I need to reiterate, it is entirely dependent on how much you contribute, as it is only for those who contribute the most, basically. What else have we got? Will we get 1 year access to the data camp as well? I'm not entirely sure on that. Let me go away and I'll get the answer to that for you. I don't know right now. Will all the skills learned be easily transferable to other domains, computer vision, engineering, TL? Well, yeah. The biggest struggle, I think, when you're learning data science, machine learning or whatnot, is when you move into industry, it's the machine learning operations, the ML ops, that is probably the most difficult to learn. Anyone, I think, could probably build a model, in a Jupyter notebook. And what we're going to show is how you use GitHub and version control, which is a big part of the ML ops sort of environment. And it certainly will, this isn't a computer vision project, but the skills of how to clean the data, how to look at the data and understand it, and how to feature engineer. Even though we're working on a tabular data set, the sort of mindset that you have to go and look at the data with will still be the same in a computer vision project. You will use different techniques to manipulate computer vision data, absolutely, but it's the mindset that is most important. How you look at the data, what can you get out of the data, and how you can sort of prod it to give you the answers that you want. They are the skills that are transferable. You said we can't have teams yet. Does that mean we'll be discussing the code task leads right down? We're not going to be in teams yet until the model development, if we choose to be. The first 2 tasks, the data processing and the EDA, the task lead is responsible for that, but that is going to be a collaboration of everyone. We're going to get into another call and we're going to talk about what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, and discuss everyone's sort of opinions and observations that they've made on the data. And we can also continually talk to each other on the Slack channel. That won't be a problem. That's where most of our communication is going to be when we're not in a call, is the Slack channel. Okay, which step of the performing the project do you think would be the most challenging and would require a lot of time and effort? Now, that's a good question. Usually, it's the data processing and EDA. To be honest, no matter what data set you get, you could spend months digging into it. There's always something to learn and to know about your data. The key is having the sort of mind frame where you can say, that's enough. I've got enough to build a model, and a good model. That's where we'll draw the line. So I would say the data pre-processing EDA is probably the most time consuming and probably the most intricate. After that, feature engineering. Again, there's a million ways to do different things, and it is full of experimentation. You might create a feature that is absolutely worthless. You might create one that is absolutely fantastic. It's all down to experimentation. Domain knowledge helps, but in our case, it'll just be down to experimentation on the whole. Okay. Sorry, I've missed a couple of hands up. Jay, have you got another question, or was that from your earlier question? Your hand up. No. Okay. Utkarsh, have you got a question? If that's how you pronounce your name correctly.
Yeah, that was all right, the pronunciation. Hi, Rich. Hi, everyone. So not sure if you mentioned it earlier, but would there be like a different test data set, or is this the data set that we will be having?
Yep, this is the full data set, and we will create our own validation and test data set as well. However, as someone has already said, the data set is massive. Would it be a good idea to split the data set in half and use some of it as a test set? Absolutely. But that's up. We can discuss that as a group when we get there.
Okay. Also, like, would there be like more data that will come in throughout the project, or is this the complete data set for the entirety of project?
This is the complete data set for the entirety of the project. We've got the accident data and we've got the vehicle data as well. They can be merged or worked on separately. Again, it's what we decide as a group. But, you know, the idea of splitting it into a smaller, you know, section, so we've got separate test sets, you know, that could be a good idea. And that is definitely one to discuss and one to put to the task lead of the data pre-processing task. Absolutely. It was good observation. Okay. Also, is there any more questions? Oh, go on, sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned like MLOps earlier, so I just was interested in like, would we be implementing model pipeline in this project or not?
Yeah, well, that is dependent on the experience of our group. We do have a couple of well-versed data scientists within our group. We do, you know, we can use AWS, Google Cloud, Databricks and whatnot, because Databricks do a fantastic sort of free demo where we can build a solution on there. This is all possible when we get to the model deployment and evaluation. Again, we can decide as a group which is the best tool. But yeah, we can put this on any of the sort of cloud servers and really, you know, either build a model on there, or we can use our model that we've built, you know, as a team and use it on a cloud platform. So yeah, that is part of the process of the deployment section.
Okay, great to know. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Hello, Rich.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Rich. I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
So as you were saying that the data set is quite huge and we need to understand about the data, and if we will be looking into the data, how we'll do it, because we have a data visualization platform as MS Excel. We cannot do it in Colab because the data set is huge. So how should we approach for this?
Well, you could take a couple of approaches. We could randomly sample the data and take maybe, say, 50,000 lines out of the whole set just to get an idea of the distribution, or maybe even 100,000 lines. If anyone is versed on Tableau, the data can be put into Tableau and we can get some visualizations and exploratory analysis there. That's not a problem. It's entirely up to you know, the individual. What I want people to do now is go away and look at the data themselves and basically handle it however they want to handle it. If they want to cut it down to 100,000 lines to analyze in Tableau, Power BI, Excel, or whatever it may be, please feel free to do that. And then we can discuss what everyone's done in the next call, and we can take the best sort of ideas from there, and the task leads can put them together. But as you say, you don't have to use if you're just going to analyze the data in Excel, just take a decent portion, as much as you want, make some observations and report back to us, and we can go from there. It's entirely free reign to the participants, and it's up to the task lead to put them together and move forward on the project.
So this won't be affecting our results, like because we are partially doing the visualization, we are not collectively doing it. So we will make partial conclusion on the data. And if we have made a partial conclusion on the data, it will obviously affect the end result. So how we will deal with that?
Well, that's the joy of having a massive data set. There is no sort of right answer here. We will, you know, if people cut it in various different ways and make their own observations, the distributions might be completely different. That is absolutely correct. So this is part of why it is an end-to-end project. These difficulties you meet in real life industry, and it's up to people, it's up to the project leads or the task leads in our case to make the decisions on behalf of the group based on the input from the group. So yeah, and I understand your observation completely, but there's no right answer here, and that's what I want to sort of drill down. It's up to us to sort of figure out our path and make the best model we can based on the information that is gathered by the individuals on the team. That's what makes it quite exciting and quite organic in a way. If that answers your question, if you sort of understand what I'm trying to say.
No, this is quite exciting, but it will take a lot of time and efforts. And I think there might be chances that we have built the final model, and then we might need to go back to the first step and again rebuild the model.
Yep, that is the amount of times that's happened to me. Is probably, I wouldn't like to admit how many times that has added to me, but generally the machine learning and data science pipeline is very iterative. You can make great decisions and get all the way to the end and realize something's changed, or the real life data that you haven't been observed that is now being created doesn't match your previous distribution. So you have to then incorporate that and change the distribution. There's a number of different ways we can figure that out. We've got things like adversarial validation and things like that. We can discuss that more at the model part. And if our models don't perform as well as we think they should, we can certainly go back and take a look at feature engineering and whatnot. That is the exciting part of it. Can be a bit frustrating at times, but that's what it's all about.
Yes. Thank you.
Not a problem. Any other questions at all?
Hey, Rich. So I was going through my dataset folder, the Parquet folder, right? So it's showing me in an empty folder. So I'm a bit confused.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Let me just double check. I did move them around a little bit, and I might have turned the permissions off or something. Let me double check that, and I'll get back to you. I'll post an update on the Slack after this call.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ben.
Is there any other questions from anyone? No more questions. Okay then. Well, I think we can leave it there. Thanks very much for coming, everyone, and I'm excited to work with you. And what I'll do from this point, I will hand over the reins to Sunita, who will share the Google Forms, the Google Slides and whatnot to volunteer as a task lead. Over the next couple of days, to volunteer as the task lead and also pick the times when it's best suited for our meetings, because we'll have one in the week and possibly one at the weekend as well. We'll decide that before we move forward. In the meantime, keep an eye on the Slack for any sort of announcements, and also take a look at the data, load it up in Excel, take a small portion of it, take a look at both the data sets, load them into Tableau, just take a look and see what you think. Make a couple of notes, come back to the next call, and we can go from there and discuss a plan of attack. I've seen a couple of comments saying the data set might have been moved. Let me double check that. I messed around with them today. It might have been my fault, but I will post an update in Slack with the data sets and make sure everyone can see them. Okay. We'll leave it there then. Well, thanks very much for coming, everyone, and I will speak to you in Slack and see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.